What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today, I'm really excited to bring you my full review of the QSP Penguin Plus. This one, though, is the traditional pocket knives exclusive variant with this very beautiful jigged titanium frame. Looks awesome. Even looks better in person. The camera is just not going to do that justice. I am going to go ahead and do a full review of this just in case you're checking this one out instead of my previous review of the QSP Penguin Plus. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. What we're going to be doing today is going through specs, size comparisons, thoughts and impressions, and any alternative recommendations if I have them. The Penguin Plus has a 3.38 inch M390 blade with a 4.5 inch jigged titanium frame. Overall length 7.88 inches. Claimed weight from the factory is 4.5 ounces. Let's go ahead and grab the scale and check to see if the jigging did anything to reduce the factory weight of 4.5 ounces. I imagine it helped a little bit. Yeah, it brought it from 4.5 all the way down to 4.2 ounces. So a little bit of weight savings there because of the titanium that was taken out due to the jigging process. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. I think this will really help some folks out there. First, we're going to bring out the Demco AD 20.5. As you can see, the 20.5 is a little bit smaller. Let me move it up just a little bit here. I think I'm off center, and I think that'll help you a little bit better. There you go. Straight top down review, helping with that size comparison a lot. And then we'll go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman. This is a full-size knife, and as you can see, the Penguin Plus just a little bit smaller than the Shaman, just a little bit bigger than the AD 20.5. Let's put these away, and I'll bring out a couple more comparison sized knives just in case you're not familiar with those two. Let's go ahead and bring out the Benchmade Bug Out. I know that's a real popular knife. And as you can see, the Penguin Plus is larger than the Bug Out. We'll go ahead and bring out the SIG K320 made by Hogue. And as you can see, the Penguin Plus is actually very close in size to that K320. The K320 does have a little bit more blade length, but very similar handle length, but you also do get that forward finger choil. So cutting edges and things like that could be very similar. Let me move these two out of the way as well. And then we'll bring out a couple of budget knives. First, we'll bring out the Raccoon. This is the Vosteed Raccoon. This one is just over 3 inches in blade length. And you can see there a little bit smaller than the Penguin Plus. And then we'll bring out the Civivi Conspirator, which is another well-known knife. Both these button locks, as you can see, one is larger and one is smaller. So the Penguin Plus falling right in between what, it is more full size. I'm not going to say it falls in between a full size and a small knife, but it is in between these two. And I hope that these have really helped with some size comparisons. Let me go ahead and put the Conspirator aside, and what we'll do is thickness profile so that you can get an idea just how thick or thin the Penguin Plus really is. All right, so first we'll do it against the Raccoon, and as you can see, the Penguin Plus is just slightly thinner than the Raccoon. Let me go ahead and bring the AD 20.5 out here. You can see the 20.5 just a little bit thinner than the Penguin. And then what I'll do is bring the Shaman out here so we get some variety to these thickness profiles. And you can see Penguin Plus is thinner than the Shaman. So hopefully that helped you with how it's going to carry in pocket, how it's going to feel in hand as far as the thickness or thinness of that particular knife. Let me go ahead and jump into my thoughts. First, ergos. I know I hit this on the original Penguin Plus review, but what I wanted to talk about is how the jig pattern really changes how this feels in hand. It does add a level of confidence because of the extra grip. It still feels comfortable in hand. You feel a little bit of the jigging here in the palm, but it's not a hot spot. You just kind of feel that it's there, and I like that because I feel like it adds a level of confidence again to the grip and hand. Now, the one thing that I do kind of wish still is that this lanyard hole was a lanyard pin. I think that it would just look that much better if it was just a full out jigged pattern. Now the pocket clip on here is a full mill titanium pocket clip. It looks really nice. It goes in and out of the pocket nice. has plenty of clearance, and it leaves a very minimal amount of knife sticking out of the pocket. And again, it's so classy, whether you get the all blacked out one or the titanium one. It looks really nice. It's not like it's going to scream in your face. Good relief cut, great access to the lock bar. The lock bar access is fantastic. This one came with slightly better detent tune than the first one that I had. The first one I ended up having to tune it up a little bit, and then I also needed to adjust the lock bar a little bit because it had a little bit of stick. This one is buttery smooth, really awesome detent, whether you're reverse flicking or thumb flicking or using the really well done light switch flipper tab. Now, I love the flipper tab in that it's done well and it has proper jigging. Jigging. I'm thinking of the jig titanium jimping on it. But my one complaint is that I wish it was not quite so angled. I think that angling doesn't do anything for you, because if you look back here, I think you could have squared that off and still had this angle really well done. And I think it would have also helped with the light switch, because if it would have been more flush, it'd be more comfortable for the push button. I said light switch, but I meant push button. And I think it would also give you an added advantage of having that jigging on the back and being able to choke up on the blade. Now, with the hand back in this position, it does offer plenty of space. I have just a little bit of leftover space back here without squeezing my hand towards the front of the knife. It also has a pretty good sharpening choil. Let's see here. Actually, I do apologize. It does not. I thought that I did in my review said this one had a good sharpening choil, but I think now that I'm remembering, I believe the first one that I had actually already had a smile from the factory, and the first time you sharpen this one, it's probably going to get a smile. So a little bit of a sharpening choil will probably need to be added there by me. What I was getting to, though, is that it's really easy to control this because it's so thin and has a good geometry behind the edge that it goes through the material easy, and it's very easy to control. And again, as you can see, the way my thumb lands right here, and I'm hitting up against the thumb, it keeps it back plenty off of there, so that if you did add a sharpening choil, it would do really good with the push cuts, and it would be even easier to control if you wanted to choke up and do the same thing and move it over to the center of the blade. And then for your draw cuts and utility cuts and things of that nature, really easy to get out onto the edge, and you can choke up and get even further out. As you can see with my large hands, choking up allows me to get real far off the edge. The action, this does have the cage ceramic bearings, phosphor bond washers inside. They're hollowed out, so while there are cage ceramic bearings and they do work really well, they are not hollowed out. Thumb studs, these are the same thumb studs that came on the Plus, and they feel like an upgrade from the regular Penguin thumb studs, but these thumb studs I do also believe come on the 154 cm titanium premium variant, which I prefer these very much over top of the factory studs that came on the base model Penguin. Those were a little bit pokey, not uncomfortable, just a little bit pokey. These are way more comfortable. I feel like there's no discomfort with pushing into them and launching them, and they have plenty of traction to be able to launch them with the little milling here at the top of the cones. Now, that jimping there doesn't do me any good. It's just too far back on the blade. I would have liked to just see them carry that out to the midway point, which is where my thumb stops, and I think that would have been really perfect for this knife. A lot of knives do this, though, so I'm not faulting QSP for this. I just think a lot of manufacturers need to take that out to the midpoint or do it like Vox and have it in the middle. And again, that is a personal preference. Everyone might not agree with that. And in all honesty, that's just for work out on the tip, which is done very seldom. So it is a nitpick, a very minor thing. The only other thing that I would have liked to have seen here is probably with the exclusive variant, probably just doing the thumb studs only without the flipper tab. But I think if for someone that likes to have the knives to fidget with, I think that having both makes sense, and I understand why you do have both. I think if they could have just flattened out that flipper tab, it would have made a huge difference in my opinion. The one thing that I am noticing with this one as well, and it could be because I did take apart the Penguin Plus and do some lube and tuning and things of that nature. This one here, not quite as silky smooth. let me take that back. It is not as guillotine. It is smooth, but it's not as guillotine. This just might need to be broken in. And now that I've settled down on the variant that I'm going to be keeping, I'm going to go ahead and do a skiff install on this particular knife. Alternative recommendations, honestly, for what you're getting for the money, this is an under $200 knife. There's not going to be a whole lot out there that's going to be an alternative recommendation. But I am going to throw some out at you just in case country of origin and things like that are important to you. Now, keep in mind that you are talking about a Chinese made knife. So these recommendations that are going to be outside of the Chinese realm are going to be a little bit more pricey. So first up, I'm going to recommend the Demco AD 20.5 and 3V that has the titanium scales and the shark's foot blade on it. Now we're going from sub $200 to over $300, but there's some discount codes out there from me and other YouTubers that might have it at different websites than I do. I'm a smaller channel, so I only have like 2. But those discount codes could help you get that close to that $300 mark for the shark's foot titanium. I think they were like running $325 or $335, something like that. But again, it's a Taiwan made knife, which is very similar to what you're going to find from an American production. Very well made. You're getting the shark lock, which I think a lot of people forget. You're getting 3V, which is a really good steel for EDC. Very good edge retention. It is not highly corrosive resistance, but it's not going to stain unless you're in an area where you deal with this problem on the regular with all your blade steels. And then it is very, I wouldn't say easy, but it's very manageable to maintain that edge and sharpen it. So a good alternative, and again, something that's going to get you close to that size point. Now the shark's foot, as you saw I had out here earlier, the AD 20.5 with the shark's foot, it is a little bit shorter, but you get great utility out of that sheep's foot shark's foot blade. Another one that you could do, you could pick out the bug out, pick up the bug out, try to find it on sale, like this 20CV variant that I found from Blade HQ. I found it just over $100. And then Titanium at the end of the year was doing their holiday sale, so I got the scales for around $50. So I was really close to this price point, still coming underneath though, by being able to do 20 CV and do titanium scales. But they're not jigged, but they're Lotus scales, so they do have the milling and contouring and knockdown, so it does look kind of good. I wouldn't say it looks as classy as the jigged, but a good alternative recommendation. The last one that I'm going to make, if you don't like the shape of the Penguin and you like a traditional drop point, I would say the Kungwu Tao is a great alternative. You're getting M390, just like the M390. You're getting a little bit more cutting edge out of the drop point of the Tao, a little bit more handle length out of the Tao. You're getting full titanium and a titanium milled pocket clip versus a stamped. So a little bit different there. I don't really love this pocket clip because it is really pokey and it moves around a lot. I feel that when I'm gripping the knife to use it, I feel it move around a lot. Now, what I do love about the Tao is they give you this landing pad for the finger. So you actually, for me, a larger hand, land off of the lock bar. So you're not squeezing the lock bar at all. You're actually fully on the scales when using this particular knife. And you do get the dual means of deployment with the Tao as well. You get a front flipper instead of thumb studs, and then you get a flipper tab. This is what I was talking about. You see how this is squared? This is what I would have liked to have seen from QSP for that flipper tab. I think that would have been awesome. A little pop of color with the Timascus there too. So a great looking knife. But those are my alternative recommendations in case you don't like the style or you don't like that it's a Chinese made knife. It is very well made. QSP does a very good job. I like QSP because I've had to deal with them. When I had my Gannett, I got one that got what they claimed was a warp blade. I took pictures to show them what was going on, where you could see it was looking centered up here, and then down here it was curving off to one side or the other. I can't remember which side. And with those pictures, they told me to send it in. Now, because they're a Chinese company, I had to send it into a local shop that handled their repairs, and they only picked up from the post office once a week. So it did take 4 weeks, but no issues whatsoever with claiming out the warranty, and I got the knife back in more than satisfactory condition. And I really did love the Gannon. It was a great knife, but you know, small channel, had to move it along. So I really do like what QSP is doing. I've encountered a ton of their knives, and that was the only time I had an issue, and the warranty was buttery smooth. Unlike my experience with the Kaiser Assassin, that was a nightmare. Anyway, I don't know if I'm gonna do an anodize. I thought I wanted to do something like this on the Demco that I brought out here earlier. I thought I wanted to do a little bit of blue and pop of color, and maybe try to do a fade on the pocket clip. But I have so many colored knives that I'm really kind of digging the raw look and feel of this jigging on here, and I like the way that it plays with the light. You get some shadows and stuff depending on the angle that you're having it at. And I know that you could still get that because it's highly polished with an anodizing and the right colorway, but I don't know if I want to do it. So I'm going to leave it like this for a little while. But what I will do next is the disassembly video, because I do want to install some skiffs here, and I do also have the tool that Skiff is making for their Rocket Glide bearings, to where you can test the pivot. I believe it's 5mm, but I want to use the tool just so I can show what it's like to use it. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. I'd love to have you follow along as I continue to bring the content on the channel. Thanks to everyone out there that is regularly leaving comments and likes and already subscribed. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.